Good day, dear viewers of Ukrainian podcast number one channel. Today with me in our studio is Victoria Zakrevskaya, founder and CEO of Boldozer Consulting Group, and today we are talking about natural resources as war assets. And so my first question is how LNG, copper, and other rare earths and other resources have become the main war assets for today's geopolitics.
I think the main thing to understand here is that nowadays technological change has shifted leverage in warfare from owning the weapons, owning the hardware, owning the people to hardware inputs. And here we talk about resources like cobalt, like graphite, and copper and energy resources like liquefied natural gas. How do I mean it? So we know that modern militaries rely on drones, sensors, surveillance systems, and command grids as much as they do on physical armies and on physical weapons. And all this is powered by electricity and high-tech components. And these high-tech components nowadays cannot be made without copper, graphite, and liquefied natural gas. And if we talk about copper, we need to understand that every drone, every radar, every mobile command center depends on wiring and semiconductors, and all this is built on copper. And shortages can literally paralyze any communications and logistics. Graphite is the battery of modern war, and liquefied natural gas is also very important as a source of energy that helps to maintain production of electricity and basically wire the whole production system because it powers not just tanks but factories, smelters, and heating. And I think the winters of last 2 years in Europe showed how important liquefied natural gas, and then of course it's a very big, I think, win and shift in understanding that we can make it through the winter without Russia, without over relying on Russian energy resources.
How does the control of these resources nowadays reshape military planning, economic planning, sanctions, and other strategic questions?
I think first thing here is, of course, that countries nowadays have started putting supply and access to critical minerals into their national security agendas, and they started making stockpiles of these resources as they used to stockpile ammunition, stockpile weapons, and other critical resources for military operations. Here we must also understand that supply security means military readiness. And I think the example of Ukraine, when Russia struck Ukraine's grid, Ukraine's ability to repair transformers and lines, all copper dependent, became the most strategic asset and the most strategic challenge that Ukraine was going through during the winter. And therefore, we must understand that if copper supply in Ukraine during this period would not be stable, it would be very, very difficult to achieve stability both in civil life and in military operations that Ukraine has been able to show throughout this very difficult time. We also should understand that this process of stockpiling also rewires international relations. We see how major powers rewire in alliances around minerals. So we can name the US Inflation Reduction Act or European Union Critical Raw Materials Act. We can, of course, see how foreign policy of the US now has this element of looking for long-term, very beneficial deals in securing minerals in all sorts of countries that are aligned with the US, including Ukraine. And of course, the recent China's graphite export controls, for example, show that resource control is a policy warfare. And this is why control over these resources reshape planning, also sanctions. We must understand that sanctions against Russian energy resources, for example, they target also refineries, they target smelters, they target insurance and financial institutions. And all this also allowed for the liquefied natural gas to take part of the market that was used to be naturally existed more for the energy resources originating from Russia. And all this, of course, is a policy, and it is a foreign policy, and it's increasingly a security policy.
In this case, what do you see as the biggest triggers for the next decade?
Triggers for what?
For military escalation, for economic escalation, anything?
Well, of course, I think access to these resources and ability to move them and to refine them. I think in this, from this point of view, we can say that these days it's not only maritime choke points and maritime canals that are going to be still very critical for economy and for military, but also we will see the new problems on land in the corridors at the new frontiers like Africa, for example, where the biggest amount of critical minerals is mined today and mined and moved. It is refined mainly by Chinese companies in Africa, and access to, for example, very good transportation systems on land, like train lines. It is very critical. However, we know that in Africa there are also other problems like accidents, tailing spills. There is political instability and arms conflicts that add to instability in this region and would seriously disrupt abilities of countries or sides should the larger war take place to make sure that these railways function effectively and that graphite, cobalt, copper, and other main metals are being transported on time to the Atlantic side of the continent.
That's a great dialogue. Thank you about that. We talked about big issues for now that influence the geopolitics mostly for the next decade. So thank you for joining. Thank you for that great dialogue again. And for our viewers, if you like the video, follow the channel and send this video to your friends, share it. We'll have more English speaking content starting from now. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.